All right, it's been about a month since we initially put this brew together here, this blueberry mead, and it's getting to the point where we're going to need to do our first racking. So that's what we're going to make a video about today. So this thing bubbled like crazy for about 3 weeks, and about a week ago it stopped bubbling, and I've just been sort of letting it sit and watching it. And now we've gotten to the point where we're at negative pressure in the airlock. So there's no gas being produced by the yeast. Therefore, more than likely, no more sugar to be had. Now this recipe calls for us to add more blueberries in at this stage of the game. So we're going to rack the liquid off and discard the current lees and fruit that's in there. And then we're going to add in 1 pound of blueberries for each gallon of liquid that's left. So I'm expecting there to be about 2.5 gallons of liquid maybe. So we'll add about 2.5 pounds of blueberries. But before we do that, we're going to take a hydrometer reading and see what our alcohol level is at this point. So simple task today, we're going to use an auto siphon to rack off the liquid. We're going to take a hydrometer reading. We're going to put the new blueberries in, and we're going to recap this with an airlock because fermentation may start again, so we'll have to see how that works. Anyway, let's go ahead and get this racked off. Alright, we've moved our operation to the kitchen, and we're going to start the siphoning process. We have a carboy on the floor, we have one here on the counter. We're going to use our auto siphon and siphon off all the liquid here, and try to see if we can figure out what to do, because there's going to be some waste, and we don't really, we want to minimize that. So if there's any liquid we can get out of the bottom that's not just complete lees or whatever, we'll try. But for the most part, we're going to get the major quantity of the liquid here into the other carboy. Now please note, as we're processing through this, everything's been sanitized properly and should be perfectly cleaned and ready to go. All right, well, let's get started. And we're off. Now we're not terribly concerned about picking up any sediment from the bottom or anything like that. That's what this rack is for, along with the back sweetening and possible re-fermentation of the blueberries. But really, this first rack, you're just trying to get the bulk of what's in there out. In this first racking, then the sediments will settle out as well, and we'll have to, we'll have more blueberries in there, so we'll have to deal with that. But then with the second racking, that's when we start worrying about sedimentation. So not a lot of sweat over that right now. Would you get a look at that color? All right, so with the rest of this, I'm going to try to use a sieve or a colander and strain the liquid out from the main part of the blueberries that are left. Try to recover any liquid I can so that we'll have it to put into the main new first rack. So the auto siphon's kind of done its trick. There's too many large particles now for it to continue to work well. So let's go ahead and get a little sieving done, and then we'll pour whatever liquid we can get into the other jug, and we'll be done with the racking. Moving on to the next part. So we did get a really good amount from the sieving here, so let's get that poured back in the jug. And I have to say, this smells amazing. Okay, so we got a good 2.5 gallons there. All right, now that we have the liquids off, let's go ahead and get a hydrometer reading and see where we stand with the estimated alcohol level. Alright, for our hydrometer reading, if you remember, we started with an estimate of 1.172 because it was a little over the scale, which ends at 1.17. So, let's see where we are now. Alright, so now we are at 1.058. So, we will, right below here, put the formula and we'll tell you where we stand right now with our current alcohol by volume. Alright, well, we have our measurement. It's time to get the new batch of blueberries in here, and then we'll put the airlock on here and we will let it sit for, I don't know, longer. Alright, let's get the blueberries in. Alright, there we have it. Our first racking is complete. Hopefully we're going to get some more fermentation. Mainly because I do want this head space to fill up with not oxygen, because oxygenation is what makes this turn to vinegar. We don't want that to happen. So hopefully we'll get some a little bit of fermentation. And you know, I just put a lot of sugar back in this, so it's going to be super duper sweet if we do not. So, on that note, we'll sign off, and I guess we'll see you back next time for the second racking, and that will be more about getting out the lees, the sediment, and all that. Postscript, we do have more fermentation. It's about 5 hours later, and we have a little bit of bubbling, and this is good for a number of reasons. First of all, we put a lot of sugar back in there with these 2.5 pounds of blueberries. So with some re-fermentation, that sugar will be converted to alcohol, and that's a good thing. It won't be super sweet, it'll make it a little drier. But not only that, if you notice, in the carboy itself, we have all this headroom in here. And that's kind of dangerous to have, because what you can end up with is, if it's over-oxygenated, it could actually turn your mead to vinegar. So we don't want that. So with this extra fermentation now, this oxygen will be driven out and will be replaced, and the mead will be safe, and the sugar will be transformed. And so, as far as I'm concerned, everything looks like it's perfectly on track. Alright, we're going to let this sit here for a long time. We'll see you back next time.